How do you go about finding a financial advisor? That is such a hard question. And today on this episode of Friends Talk Financial Planning, we're going to give you 3 key questions to make sure you ask for every advisor you interview. And also make sure you stick around for the end where we've got one bonus tip that's maybe the most important question of all. Hi, I'm John Shear, and I run a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin.
And I'm Bridget Sullivan-Mermel, and I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois. And John, before we get into our first tip, I just want to remind people to subscribe. If you subscribe to our channel, it really helps us out. So our first tip in what to ask financial advisors when you're trying to find one is, are you a fiduciary? Now, sometimes people think fiduciary sounds like something
that's a big word
they don't want, but in finances, it's something that you do want. So what a fiduciary means is they put in common terms, is that they put your interests ahead of their own. So that means that they're giving you advice, even if it's to their own detriment. So they're putting your advice first. So finding a fiduciary, somebody who puts your interests ahead of their own, is what my number one question. And it's a big topic in the industry right now.
I was just going to say, Bridget, it is that kind of 50-cent word like fiduciary, and it's an important term to use because it has a specific, it's actually worth using the jargon when you're interviewing advisors.
Yeah.
And, my experience is that like most people would think, well, don't all advisors act in clients' best interest? You'd think that everybody from the big brokerage firms, and the answer is no, right? Like it really isn't that's a specific thing. And the ads you see on TV and don't we take care of you and all this sort of thing, and we care about our clients, that doesn't translate into this fiduciary idea. So it's really an important one. That's my number one topic as well.
Right. And people, the other things that they can do is like, they might have a standard that's like, I'm reasonable.
Yeah.
Like I'm reasonable, which that sounds okay if you don't know what the other options are, but putting my own interest, your interest ahead of my own is a much higher standard. And so for us, it's like, what standard of care do you really, offer your clients? And that is the number one thing to look for. Okay, John, your next tip is interesting. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that one of the other things that I talk with people about is asking the advisor, do you advise on more than just investments, and taking that holistic approach. And I know that's something that you really focus on when you're talking with people about how to hire a financial advisor.
Right. It's like being comprehensive or holistic. I don't use the word holistic that much because I think it makes a lot of people think of like whole wheat bread that sounds good for them, but they don't really want to eat, but like somebody who thinks about more than just investments is going to be important overall, because the investments are an important part of your finances as you're going along. But there's so many other things that really play in, and you really want somebody who's thinking about those things as well, and not just totally focused on your investments.
Can you give some examples? I know I've got some in my pride. Like what examples of other things non-investment related should people be expecting to hear from the advisor?
So for instance, one of the things that I've been talking to clients about now, and we've talked about on this show, is it's a good time to refinance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's not investments. And it's complicated, and you have to know something about it to be able to talk about it. And a lot of times I think that the advisors who might be talking about it are the advisors who might actually take care of it for you, the people who will actually make some money on refinancing. So again, it's like to put the client's like kind of broader scope of interest in mind. I think that's just one example of right now what I'm talking to clients about, and the type of outside of just investments that I think is important.
I'll give one other example on that too, Bridget, is at this time of year in the fall is oftentimes it's time to sign up for benefits for next year through work. What type of health insurance plan should I select? And should I do the HSA option versus other? And those sort of things that, in the brokerage houses, that there's nothing to sell. But are you going to be able to advise me on specifically which health insurance option I should choose and which disability insurance I should pick? Those sorts of things are, again, those non-investment things that golly are really, really important with folks. And I'll tell, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're
I was
next.
just gonna say that one other thing that's sort of a subset of, do you give advice on topics other than just investments? That's a real specific one though, that I think is a really important one to ask is, will you give me specific tax advice?
Right.
And in that investment world, the financial advisors and come and everybody says, oh, we do tax focused planning. We plan for taxes and don't take that one at face value. I guess that's my advice, is ask, will you give specific tax advice? Because taxes are the largest or one of the largest line items in everybody's budget. What goes to Uncle Sam, what goes to your state. And what most folks are looking for, what I'd be looking for, is saying, listen, how do I reduce my taxes? How do I manage it effectively? And when you take a look at, it catches my eye when I see advertisements or look at people's websites. Oh, we do tax planning. I said, interesting. And then scroll down to the very bottom, get down in that little fine print. And in 99% of the cases, it'll say, consult your tax advisor on specific strategies. Right. So wait a minute, you're giving me tax advice, but then I've got to consult my tax, like who's my tax advisor?
Right.
That's what we're looking for, is actual tax advice. So, so to ask that question, will you give me specific tax advice? And in many cases at these bigger firms, the brokerage houses, they're not allowed to, right? And that's really what I think most people are looking for. So that's the other sort of subset, is ask about specific tax advice. That can really go a long way.
Yeah. So to consolidate this, first is fiduciary. Second is, are you comprehensive, or you advise on more than just investments? If I've got other questions. Third is, do you coordinate taxes in your advice? And now here's our bonus question. And that is the backup on fiduciary, looking for a fiduciary. We really recommend, in the industry jargon, it's called fee only. Now, fee only means that, again, it's a higher standard than just fiduciary, because in the industry, the people understand that consumers have gotten wise and they're looking for fiduciaries. They've started parsing it out and saying like, oh, I can be a fiduciary when I'm doing this task and not doing that task. So the more people can say they're a fiduciary, then in my opinion, are really putting clients' interest always ahead of their own. So when you look at the fee only, it's a higher standard than just fiduciary. And so I really recommend that people look at fee only, fee only. The
place that I see a lot of that, Bridget, is especially on the insurance side. So if an advisors that work with an insurance, either for an insurance company or they're independent, but they sell insurance, is what I'll hear is, oh, we're fiduciaries. And I can see it on their website. We act as fiduciaries. And then, metaphoric, not in actual parentheses, but when we're giving investment advice.
Right.
But then on the insurance, when I put my insurance hat on, yes, then I'm a broker and I'm selling things. And from a client standpoint, you go, wait a minute, wouldn't I want to have somebody be a fiduciary at all the time when you're giving me investment advice or insurance advice, not just on the one side? So that are you fee only sort of translates into, are you a fiduciary all the time or just some of the time? That's such a great question.
Right. And fee only advisors should be upfront about their fees.
That's right.
So they should never say, I don't know what my fees are, or, fee only is upfront about their fees too. So you'll understand exactly how you're paying people.
That's great. What a great place to wrap up with that. Thanks again for watching. I'll remind everybody to subscribe. That helps other people find this content and helps promote our show. And the other thing is that Bridget and I are members of the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners. And if you'd like to find an advisor in your area that has a similar holistic view on things and talks about things like this, visit their website at acplanners.org.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks, Bridget.